It's styling video time, and today we are due for another Monster High video because maybe a month ago I've made my Monster High video. There are so many characters that obviously I couldn't cover everything that people wanted to see. For my last video I have collected a couple of comments, compiled the suggestions, the list of characters that people wanted to see most, and we're gonna start with Robecca Steam. Here is her design. Interesting combination of things. Obviously reminds me of steampunk, but not in a traditional sense. There's a lot of indigo, a lot of blue, which is not very common for steampunk styles. I think that one of my favorite aspects of her design is the way that they decided to go with her skin looking like sheets of metal with some cogs and bolts here and there, you know? I don't know if bolts would be the right word, but cogs is the right one, I think. Of course, also the shoes, the fact that they have, it's not a jetpack, like jets in them. In any case, you know what I mean, it's right here on the screen, but it's a combination of a bunch of things, of course, as per usual. I also kind of took inspiration from this rendition of the character too, because I like the idea that she has this ribcage, a metal ribcage going on inside. I thought that would be an interesting part to her design. So I kind of put one of those things into the images that I found, but this is kind of, I guess it's more fitting for Skelita, but I kind of still wanted to include it just because I like that part of the design. I like that she has this metal ribcage inside. Of course, she wouldn't be wearing it on the outside because you would have to open the chest compartment to see it, but I still think that it's interesting to just mention. I also thought that it would be important to put some goggles on her, and I thought that this one that has lenses that can magnify something would be really interesting to incorporate into her outfit, as well as I thought that indigo is a really important color for this character, so I found these shoes that reminded me of this ones. They're definitely steampunky. The only thing is that instead of some kind of cogs on the design, like on the shoes themselves, you get keys and locks, and I would kind of exchange it for steampunk era machinery or the inspiration. In any case, I would just put different embellishments on it, as well as I thought that this reminded me of her skin and her construction as a character. I think that it would be cool to use something like this that would make her look like she's made out of sheets of metal. She's also wearing a cage-like skirt in one of the images. Let me find. So right here, right? I didn't find anything that was as intricate while at the same time being short, because most of the stuff is kind of, you just don't see really long, full-length skirts on Monster High characters most of the time, if ever. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen one. Maybe I'm wrong, but... And I've also put this in here, even though, once again, there's this pattern that kind of reminds me of Skelita's patterns, but this embellishments kind of reminded me of Robecca, especially like with the color and everything in combination. And of course, for the hair, it's really important to have black and blue going on, this shade of blue specifically. Of course, with the makeup, we've already talked about this in previous videos, but Monster High, they really like to have purple eyeshadow, so I'm not going to be showing a lot of makeup looks in this video because we are mostly dealing with similar colors, and also they just basically use a lot of purple, and most of the time whenever there's a different type of color, I'm probably gonna mention it. She doesn't really like modern technology, so I wouldn't want to lean into like futuristic stuff at all. It's genuinely just like steampunk, basically taking something that's very steampunk in terms of the outfit and then turning up the colors, or not even turning them up as much as changing them to something like bright indigo instead of, usually it's brown. In steampunk everything is kind of brown, so I would say that just make it blue, make it bright instead of going with something earthy, you know. Let's move on to Venus McFlytrap. She's such an interesting character in terms of the combination of styles, and it also reminds me of this new wave of punky inspired, 90s inspired outfits that people wear on TikTok, and like people kind of started to like go back into this swing of wearing this type of style, while at the same time also prioritizing eco styles and stuff like that. So she's kind of like eco-conscious punk kind of looking person. It's a lot of, basically in terms of colors, just a lot of bright pink with bright green, lime kind of green, like very highlighter kind of green. Oh, let me show you a picture. Why am I just describing it without a picture on? So right here, vines and plants are kind of incorporated into the designs or into the accessories because she is Venus McFlytrap, like the plant, right? A lot of the designs that she has are related to that. So for example, we have this whole entire outfit that's more about gardening and stuff like that. She is eco-conscious. It's kind of a big part of her character, really. One of the things that I think are important about her outfit that I did not include in my images that I have found is not even the outfit, the just look itself, is the fact that she has a shaven part here. I love the combination of this green and pink. It's so bright and fun, and it reminds me of Avril Lavigne for some reason, because I think that she had that combination of colors for one of her album cycles. I don't know, just reminds me of that for some reason. Once again, very punky while at the same time being very bright pink. There's definitely some things, like for example, this belt is like a very punky spiky belt, but it's really green. So I found this hair. Of course, it would have been cool if it was actually like stripy in terms of like having two different colors from the roots instead of having a fade going on, or a, what would it be considered, a balayage? Maybe it's a balayage. But basically, I would want it to be as close as possible to the actual character, but I think that these colors are working really well. They would work really well for her in general. As well as this type of outfit reminds me of her. Of course, it's missing some green, but she is green herself, so we would kind of compensate for that, I guess. She's also wearing this denim vest. Not this one specifically, obviously, but just in general, she wears a denim vest. And I think that it would be important to also incorporate denim and sometimes maybe some denim distressed overalls, maybe shorter ones, because once again, Monster High characters don't really wear full-length clothes as much. I think it's because they are supposed to be teenagers and it's not supposed to be too stuffy, you know, so it would make sense. But I couldn't find anything that was cute. It was really hard to find something that was similar to her outfit while at the same time not being like a lame image. But in any case, you get what I mean. Like, I would definitely play up the whole gardening enthusiast part of her character. I think that it would be very fitting for her. I also thought that like a makeup like this would be really interesting to experiment with, just because it would kind of remind you of Venus Flytrap plant itself too. I've also put these shoes here, except, listen, I don't know if these are in any way real, okay? But I feel like it would be possible to make a pair of shoes like this. They might not gonna be the most durable shoes in the world, but it's possible. And also I think that I would definitely have the Flytrap heads instead of lilies or whatever the hell this flower is, because she has a pair of shoes, this one, that is literally just like the mouth of the trap, kind of. Like, I think that it would make sense for her to wear a pair of shoes like that with the Flytrap heads. I've also put these shoes here, mostly for the color, and I thought the shape would be kind of interesting. So I kind of put this image in here too, because like if you combine these two, it would be closer to what I'm thinking of for Venus. I've also put this belt here, but honestly, it's not perfect. It's so hard to find those specific things because, of course, these characters have been created based on real styles, but also combined with other inspirations and other things that are very specific to those characters. So you're not just gonna find a picture that's really nice of a belt that has spikes instead of those kind of square studs or whatever the hell. But I thought the style in general, because it's punky and the color was spot on, not the black as much as the green, the shade of green itself. Move on to Rochelle. With Rochelle, we've got inspirations from gargoyles. For some reason, I was really scared of gargoyles when I was little. Don't ask me why, I don't know. I think it was, do you remember that show about gargoyles? Yeah, this one. Why was I afraid of it? I don't know, but I was. Rochelle, this is what kind of like monster inspiration we're dealing with. Obviously, she has her wings, her skin. It has a little bit of speckle because she's supposed to be made of stone. A lot of the inspirations from the architecture that's kind of associated with gargoyles is going to be obviously present in her outfits. You'll see it in her shoes oftentimes, sometimes her accessories. There's also in her accessories, she oftentimes uses the French lily flower, that symbol. It's, for example, it's on her skirt right here, right? So the skirt references stained glass. On the purse, you also have the same kind of style going on where it references architectural inspirations as well as some lily flower symbols. Oh yeah, on the shoes here, you can see the same thing. See, like it definitely looks like an outside of a building in terms of the swirling lines and the heel looking like it's part of a column. And also, of of course, once again, we have the symbol of the French lily. It's all kind of reference to her being from Scarah's, which is like a Monster High Paris. So there's a lot of that in her outfits, definitely. As well as her accessories are usually made out of metal. Metal that's been manipulated into different types of shapes. It doesn't usually have any stones, any other embellishments involved. It's just straight up metal, usually black. I found these shoes that kind of reminded me of her shoes. I would definitely look, it would be cool to have something custom made, of course, because with these types of shoes, this is like, it reminds me of stone, it reminds me of sculptural work, but it does not remind me of the classic patterns that are usually in the architecture styles that her outfits have been modeled after. So I would probably try and recreate it somehow myself instead of getting something like this, but this is the closest I could find, and I still really like it because it just reminds you of sculptural work. And I think that for Rochelle it does work really well because her character has been so heavily inspired by stonework and art that's created in stone. I've also found some pieces like this. It's not exactly similar to what she usually wears in terms of her clothes, as much as I just think that the structural approach to this top and the reference to the flower kind of makes it an interesting piece for her, as well as having accessories like this everywhere. It's just something that she does incorporate it into her outfits. I also have this dress here. Both reminds me of that dress that she has with the Eiffel Tower in it, as well as it reminds me of the inspiration that the designers took from stained glass. And I would probably go for a different color, maybe something black and white, or have a little bit of pink here and there or something like that. Not this tan color with black, because it's kind of outside of Rochelle's color palette, you know? It wouldn't be exactly what she wears. I also found this tiara, which to me looks very similar to the tiara that she wears right here, except it's a little bit lighter, of course. I've also picked this hair for her. The only difference is that I probably would have gone with a brighter dye, like brighter colors. I don't think it's bright enough for what Monster High is usually about. There's still, even when the characters are inspired by something very gothic, for example, or something that usually has a very earthy color palette, like for example steampunk, it's still changed to be more bright and colorful. I've also found this outfit to reference her love for striped clothing, black and white stripe, except the ones that she does wear in her original designs. She wears a shirt, a distressed like black and white shirt, and also some tights. But I think that I would probably want to go with something different. Not necessarily, I just would want to use stripe patterns in general for her, because she does seem to carry that over from one outfit to another in different types of pieces, but the pattern is still there. Okay, let's talk about Headless Headmistress. So with her, I spent way too long trying to find the right outfit, because I was trying to find outfits or find the name of the era where the outfit is coming from. But the issue is that it's very 1820s, right? So it's right before it's basically pre-Victorian. Oh my god, I was trying to find something, and like when I was looking it up, it just wasn't anywhere close to what I wanted. But eventually, after goddamn hours, I found this. Reminds me of her outfit, of course. Yeah, this is a Sleepy Hollow related character, so the outfit itself is very Sleepy Hollow related, and it's not as influenced by the early 2010 fashion or late 2000, like 2008, 2009 fashions as much as other characters. Mostly, I think it's because she's an adult character. I mean, they've all been alive for a different amount of times. It's really confusing to like describe why some of them are adults and some of them are teenagers. But I think that in terms of the design, they just kind of went for more of the classic design and just took the inspiration straight from the era that she comes from. I've also picked these shoes for her as well, because I think that it looks very similar to these shoes, right? I think it does. And of course, for her hair, she definitely needs to have a short pixie haircut, curls, and dark hair, black hair. Let's move on to Spectra. So with Spectra, there's a lot of chains going on. with Spectra. A lot of chains. Even here, where this is the rendition where she's a 3D character, I actually really like this outfit. I don't know how people feel about the one of this redesigns, but I kind of like that it's a baby doll dress with chains, really big chains hanging off of it. It's kind of cool. I think that it would look fantastic in real life. Like, it's just such a, like, if it's done in a more high fashion way, I think that it could look really impressive. But basically, I was trying to find outfits that were incorporating chains, but not small chains, and not chains in terms of you just like images where people are flexing, you know, their wealth or something like that. Chains that are more about being shackled, and chains that are, of course, referencing her monster identity, you know. So I kind of was trying to find something that would be more heavy, industrial looking, or old looking in terms of the time period that the chains were created. And it was a little bit difficult for some reason. I don't know why there's not a lot of fashion that incorporates heavy chains. I thought there would be more. For some reason in my head I was like, there must be some. I thought when I was planning for this video, I was like, it's gonna be easy to find this. Someone probably did this before, right? And then surprisingly, no, not really. There's some that have chains and stuff like that, but they're really small, you know. They're kind of like, they look like jewelry chains instead of actual chains being incorporated into outfits. I don't know why. But I picked this color for her hair, and it does kind of like fit with this hairstyle that she has in this image, but most of the time her hair is kind of styled like this with it flipping out. I think it kind of references her being like mid-flight, or like not ever being a physical entity. She's made out of like, I don't know what, plasma or something, like what are ghosts are made of. In any case, I think that this hairstyle actually reminds me of the 70s hairstyle in terms of how it flips out in terms of curls, you know. I think that it would, in real life, if you were to try and recreate her hairstyle, I think that would look really cool. Like, it would look really similar to the original design, and it would definitely be weirdly stylish. Not weirdly because the style is weird, but because it's just the timing would have been perfect, you know. This hairstyle is coming back, or it came back, but like, you know, once again, mostly like a TikTok kind of trend. It's interesting that sometimes if you just make a show or remake something at the right point, it just, the trends converge again, and you can create something that's extremely trendy because you just got on the trend right before the wave of the trend happened again. So you kind of riding it right at the right time, right? It's kind of the same reason why I actually made my first styling video with Winx. Is I just was so baffled that the stylist did not see that Winx was so perfect for right now, with the like recurrence of Y2K fashion and 90s. And there's so much individuality going on in terms of people's outfits. Of course, there's always going to be trends, and there's always going to be people who dress a little bit more in a more chill way, you know. They're not really trying to achieve any type of look. But right now, it's one of those times where all the outfits from Winx would have been perfect for right now if they were recreated similarly or the same as they were in the original show. These opportunities like that don't come very often. That's why I'm always so surprised when the creators of shows or of movies, when they recreate something and the trends are converging. It's right there. Like, you can predict it because it's already happening, but it's just starting to be a thing. It's not quite fully a thing. So when you're creating your show or creating your movie, you can get on that trend right at the perfect moment, you know. So it was really, I don't know, I really like seeing things like that where all people would have just died over how cool Spectra's hair is if it was styled this way with the purple color and everything. It's like creating a punk 70s dream, you know, like really bright color that's like an unnatural color for hair, and this 70s blowout. It would just be perfect, you know. In any case, I found these earrings that had, not just earrings, the choker too, that kind of had more of that unfinished jewelry look, like unfinished chain, not jewelry chain as much as just heavier, kind of more industrial looking chains being incorporated into it jewelry. It's still very dainty because it's supposed to still stay on your ear and not rip your ear out, obviously. So it's not as perfect for like creating her outfit, for example, because it would just look unimpressive if this type of size of a link chain was used to create her dress or something like that. It would just not look intense enough to be as like a fashion statement, it would just kind of look a little bit lame. But in terms of just having it as like earrings or something like that, this size could be quite perfect. She's wearing chains and stuff like that on her, in her ears, kind of like earrings or whatever. Of course, I have found some outfits like this. It reminds me of like the top, you know, and the mesh itself. The mesh looks exactly like the type of mesh that Spectra is wearing in many of her outfits. It's kind of part of her recurring patterns that they kept on using on dolls in the design of the characters when they drew them and stuff like that. It's recurring consistently, so I would probably look at that as like part of her constant wardrobe choice. I've also of course put an outfit like this. The reason being, first of all, I just really like those cuts on the dresses, but at the same time there's also this see-through layer on top of it, which I think is very important for Spectra's character, because the thing is, it's not only is she transparent, but her clothes also looks transparent in some places more than others. So I think it would be important to use some transparent pieces to push the transparency of her and like lightness of her even further. So for example, this layer on top of her dress, right? I guess it's a vest. I don't think there's any sleeves. I think it would be cool to incorporate that in her outfits this way, where you have an outfit and then on top of it a see-through layer as well. Okay, in this outfit, I also thought that the heaviness of these chains really reminds me of her dress, like the baby doll dress. I think that this type of heaviness of the chain, at least in terms of the look, like it looks heavy. I don't know if it is actually heavy, and it's better if it isn't super heavy for the actress to not have to carry heavy chains on her. But I think that the size and the way that it looks, it would be perfect to construct that outer layer of the dress for her. And of course, I had to put some chain inspired shoes. It was a little bit hard. Like I tried to find something that looks exactly like her shoes with the ball at the bottom instead of the heel, but I couldn't find anything like that. Still an interesting thing that would look good on her, especially because it is also transparent, so it would be interesting to see that as well. Okay, let's move on to Operetta. She was born in, I think it's again Paris, Scaries, and then she moved to America, I believe New Orleans area. So she's kind of obviously she's very musical, Operetta. We know the inspiration for her character, so obviously we know that she's very musically talented, gifted. So with her, I found a bunch of images for her hair. The victory rolls that she has are not big enough in these images, I think. I'm not 100% sure if it's big enough or not. The hair definitely needs to be more red rather than ginger, but I thought that this look was fairly interesting because a lot of her outfits are very 50s kind of inspired, like at least that's what it reminds me of, the silhouettes, except once again her dresses and everything are they're shorter than what you would expect from a 50s dress, which is to be expected from Monster High. I thought that this image shows like an interesting makeup look for her that reminds me of her original makeup look. Let's see, like she has the red lipstick. Obviously her eyeshadow is a little bit more bright and colorful, but still I thought that the red lipstick, of course, is very classic for the 50s to have red lipstick going on. A lot of dice, and once again I couldn't find anything, like any outfits or outfits that kind of incorporated dice into it. So there's not gonna be dice here, but just imagine that some of the pieces that I'm showing you, that they have either a pattern that kind of relates to dice, or maybe earrings that are dice earrings, you know. Again, victory rolls, and in this case she has her ponytail. We have another outfit, a lot of patterns with spider webs, as well as, I don't know if you've noticed in those images that I showed you, you guys are probably familiar with that as well, but she has this birthmark on her left eye, and I believe that it goes down to her shoulder. I don't think what's on her arm is a birthmark, I think that it's a tattoo, but basically she has this birthmark on her face that she usually covers up. Not that she's trying to specifically cover it up as much as she just wears something as an accessory because of it. I think it's not really like, oh, she's trying to cover up that it exists or something, as more as it's just one of those things that are an opportunity for a creative accessory. So she usually has like a monocle, but a very elaborate one. Sometimes it's heart-shaped with patterns on it, sometimes it's like this bendy thing all around. Sometimes she wears sunglasses too, but I don't have an image with sunglasses, but you know what I mean. Most of the time it's just like a very intricate kind of monocle, so I decided to go with this one because it both references her monocles being heart-shaped oftentimes, but I couldn't find anything like heart-shaped that I liked, so I kind of went with this. It's a little bit more intricate, but still reminds me of her, and of course it would have to be on the other eye because this is not the right side, but you you get it. Also, I put this dress here, and obviously it's because she's wearing polka dot a lot. I think that it might have something to do not only with the 50s, but the fact that dice also kind of related to that, so it makes sense that the creators would want to use both. This type of silhouette is very common for her, except make it shorter. It's Monster High. I've also put this here because I would want to incorporate a lot of spider webs into her outfits, but I couldn't find anything that I liked. I mean, I like this. I just don't think that she would specifically wear this garment as much as I just like that the inclusion of the spider web in this specific way. And I also put this one here too because it's kind of fancy spider web, and I think that she would wear something like that. She has something elegant about her, but at the same time rebellious about her. Kind of combine the two. It's not that she's kind of a 50s lady, not at all. So trying to combine some inspirations from the 50s with her having tattoos and having a very bright red hair and all the inclusions of spider webs and stuff like that. Basically just mix it all together, package it, and it's going to be Operetta. Let's move on to Skelita Calaveras. How do I pronounce it with an English accent? Whatever. She is straight up inspired by Day of the Dead, mostly because of her skirt. I was like, ooh, that reminds me of something. And her makeup. You know how I know this? Melt Cosmetics. Melt Cosmetics had a whole Day of the Dead collection. I believe this is from like promotional images or something like that for them. And the hair too, like the flowers, the big flowers on the head. So I found images that had that because she definitely wears all of that. It's quite clear her makeup is definitely inspired by that, or literally that. She also has patterns, like they're inspired by traditional Mexican garments. I thought that this top, for example, would have been interesting. A lot of big bright flowers. Well, it doesn't have to be on black materials, but she just Skelita does wear some black shirts with really bright flowers on them, or skirts and stuff like that. The hair, of course, being black and orange. This is again a balayage or whatever it is. I would want it to be stripy like the original characters, of course. It's just really hard to find something that doesn't suck that is stripy like this, because I can find like the first two strands being dyed but not stripy like that, especially with orange and black. It's not as common. Also dresses like this. Of course, they would have to have other accessories going on to make it more Skelita rather than just regular dress. I also found this, which I thought was so cool because she does have some skeletal looking accessories. Not only is she a skeleton, but she has skeletal accessories. So for example, a skeletal belt, I believe. Wait, let me show you. Right here, you can see that it's kind of like a skeletal rib looking belt. So I thought that it would be cool to have something like this, which is it's a skeleton, but it has very bright dragonflies on it. I don't know, it's funky, but I kind of like that it's both bright and incorporates skeletal motifs. Really bright outfits like this with shoes that incorporate these colors and some that are inspired by the patterns like this. I really like her design. It's really fun. I don't know, it's just cool. Okay, let's move on to Scarah Screams. She's definitely inspired by mod fashion, definitely, just based on the silhouettes of her clothes. Like for example, right here too, the pattern reminds me of that, as well as the shoes are definitely looking like go-go boots to me. Her hair definitely 100% reminds me of that. And the thing that I like about her character the most is like her hair and also her eyes. For some reason I just find it so interesting that she has no pupils, no irises, but it's just like, I don't know, it's really rare to have a character, maybe it's not that rare, but I don't know, it just suits her character really well. I just really like that. And of course I put some images like this where you can see this type of style of hair. I also thought that this looked very similar to the way that her hair is done here, right? Like the curly at the bottom, as well as a lot of green. I would say that I've never seen her wear a jacket like this. I mostly picked this image for the skirt. Maybe for the skirt it would have to be a little bit darker because it's more olive or emerald green rather than her top, which is kind of more like lime green. Having silhouettes like this would work for her as well. Maybe not red color though. I would probably put some pink instead of red, or some darker green. Something like this could work for her. She doesn't really wear like this exact outfit anywhere. I just mean that it's from similar era, it's inspired by it, and the color fits, so it could be one of those outfits that kind of expand her wardrobe. Having an outfit like this with this hair also, like I just feel like it just reminds me of her. Oh yes, of course. So for the dress that she's wearing right here, it's clearly inspired by these patterns and the pinks that were usually used at that point in like 65, 64. I think it was the peak where this style was popular. Might be wrong on that, don't quote me. Don't quote me on that. I don't know anything historical accuracy related. And this image, I've also picked it for the shoes, except I would have maybe some black going on around as well to just match her original style. And the last one for today is going to be Jinafire Long. So she's inspired by Chinese dragons. She's also one of the characters who's really interested in fashion, so here she is with her black and green hair, a lot of accessories that are definitely inspired by traditional Chinese outfits. A lot of her outfits definitely have scale looking patterns. A lot of the outfits that I found, so for example here, not for the headdress but for the dress itself, it looks kind of scaly, which I think would be perfect for her. The colors, except for the blue, I don't think that she wears blue that often, but the purple, green, emerald, red, yellow colors are perfect for her. I've also found this dress that's kind of inspired by the traditional Chinese dresses that reminds me of some of her shirts, tops, the way that they were constructed. I've also found this out. I believe this is guopei, and this one definitely references dragons and traditional Chinese drawings of them. It's gold, which I think a lot of her outfits should be gold and red. From this image, I wanted to reference this part of the image kind of reminded me of some of her outfits detailing or some of the accessories that she wears, like for example right here, the accessories that are in her hair right here. It reminded me of these accessories. I've also found this image that I thought looked quite similar to this hair accessory that she has going on, except it's not a bunch of individual strands of material as much as it's just like one, like single one. Still, I have this hair color here. I think that the hair color is great, except of course it's missing black. What else do I have? Oh yeah, the shoes. So for the shoes, I've put this image here because there's a dragon here and a lot of design ideas that come from the creators of Jinafire. You can tell that they were incorporating a lot of things from dragons obviously into her outfit, so I thought that it wouldn't be out of place, as well as I thought that something very golden and very intricate in terms of the imagery on the shoes would look really good, as well as having some emerald green, or I believe it's like Eastern green, that's what the color is called. Something like that would look really good on this character. And I also think that there's so much potential to just make her look very elegant and beautiful, because there's so many different outfits that exist in China in terms of just there's a really rich history of them and the colors are very bright. She would also be very stylish since she is interested in fashion. So these are the characters for today. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video, which is probably gonna be something else, like not styling. I'm trying to make this a diverse channel. Styling is obviously my main thing, but I don't want to be just offering that. I want to offer more. So thank you for watching. Bye.